Hi everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and today I want to talk about how to stop people pleasing for good and give you some tips on what you might do considering that problem that many of us tend to have. Those who grew up in dysfunctional families, codependents, adult children, if you're an adult child of abuse or adult child of neglect, then oftentimes people pleasing is a big part of our architecture emotionally. First of all, we want to make sure our functioning with others is our choice and not simply others' wants or needs. Just because someone has a need or a want doesn't mean you are the person to meet it. I know that to be true, again, working with addictions for many years, and so many times families feel obligated because their addicted or alcoholic family members need help because their life is falling apart and they're under functioning, but it may not be the family who needs to address it. And they feel obligated to do that when actually it may be someone else's would be a better help to the alcoholic or addict. So I think just because someone has a need and they're around you doesn't mean you're supposed to be the one to meet that need. So again, it needs to be your choice. It needs to be a mature choice and not simply out of guilt, obligation, those kinds of difficulties, which makes the giving, I think, more toxic. Because we can be toxic overfunctioners or toxic people pleasers. And so I suggest to people that they choose to be more selfish. And that's the main antidote. Now, that sounds crazy. Well, Jerry, you're teaching people to be selfish? Yes, I am. Those who are way over here on the pendulum of being way under self-focused. In other words, they don't have a self. They are so selfless that they need to have some self. And so that selfish indication that I share with them that they may want to try to work that way is that they're way over here. If they become selfish, they'll be more balanced. I don't fear they will come all the way over to being truly selfish because they probably can't. Giving my own example as a codependent, I remember being told that I should be more selfish. And I'm going, oh, well, that goes against all my values. That goes against all my... But the problem was, even when I attempted and worked at being more selfish, I was much more balanced. And it would be difficult for me to truly become selfish, even if I intended it. If you're on this pendulum way over here, which many of us who are people pleasers are. I've got an online program where I talk more about that. That online program is mentioned down below in the description. You might take a look at it. It goes more into depth as to people pleasing, having a lack of self, defining a self, and those kinds of things. And that all impacts people pleasing. And again, I feel confident suggesting this because most of the people I work with are already way out of balance and over-functioning. Since they are so out of balance, it's good to use the overcorrective thinking of being selfish. It's an overcorrection because I don't think they can really overcorrect. They'll probably just correct it to more healthy. They won't actually go all the way over to overcorrect. And again, I don't talk to someone with narcissistic traits and tell them to be more selfish. So, I have common sense. I understand I don't suggest that. I only suggest that to the people that I think would be virtually impossible for them to truly be selfish, given where they are in either their codependency or people pleasing. If it's difficult for you to think about being selfish, then try to work at being mediocre as a helper or a people pleaser. Then start there. If you need to start there, try to be more mediocre at that and not so perfectionistic, not so heroic. Thirdly, learn to practice saying no. Then learn to practice saying no with less guilt. I think the first step is kind of learning to say no. The second step is working on, but what happens with the feelings, the residual feelings I have if I say no? Then we have to work on the guilt that may be there, or the shame, or the feared unhappiness of others if you say no. We can learn to say no. If I can learn to say no, anybody can learn to say no. That is my belief, because I was about the biggest yeser in the world. If you want your helping to be genuine and chosen and not people-pleasing, make your yeses more valuable by learning to say no. Because what it actually does is it makes your yeses much more powerful if you have no's. If you say yes all the time, then I think that cheapens your yeses. And then you send out a signal to everyone that I'm a yeser, I'm a people pleaser. Come to me and I'll say yes. And I'm going to talk about some of the things regarding the attraction that pulls people in to come to us. If you're a people pleaser, guess who's going to find me? The people who want to be pleased and are not pleasing themselves. They want me to do it, and that's who's going to be finding me. I would suggest reading a book, When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Manuel Smith. That was a great book. I really recommend that one. If you have trouble with saying no, I think he's a good author to really explain that to you in greater depth. And I have my own explanations about learning to say no without feeling guilty in my online program that I mentioned. Fourthly, spend time helping people who aren't asking you for things or for help, but who need it. Now, that may be a new concept. Don't just help or people please anybody that has a need or a want around you or they've asked you. Go help people who are not asking you and who may need help. I think that will build self-confidence, self-esteem, and you might be able to say no to the more immature around you when it's appropriate. Fifthly, if you find this difficult to do, get help or coaching. Therapy, coaching, you can meet with me, you can meet with one of my associates. There may be professionals in your area who could help you with saying no without feeling guilty. 6, if you begin to stop your too many yeses, this will change who is attracted to you and who hangs around you. Yeses or people pleasing attract more underfunctioners and more people who live in a learned helpless way. So if you say yes all the time, you're going to be the magnet for all the folks who are immature, underfunctioning, probably don't really need the help because they haven't learned their own way to help themselves, and they may not want to. They just want you to. And I know there are times and days I think, am I the only one that can look something up and check something out? And many times I'll say, well, if I can look it up and I can check it out, well, you can too. Well, you could do it faster and easier. Well, I might be able to do it faster and easier, but I can do it faster and easier because I've learned and practiced how to do it. You can too. And so go learn it, go do this, especially with computer things, or, you can find almost anything online these days in terms of knowledge that, go look it up. If you have that problem, go check it out and see what you should do. I have really enjoyed being the guy who can say no. And then when I say yes, it means so much more. And it also keeps away the users and those who are seeking to be enabled. Because I remember I would attract all the people who wanted to be enabled. And I thought that was my mission, to enable everybody in the world. And to make sure everybody was happy, make sure I never said no, because no wasn't a good thing to say. It means you don't love somebody. And, I can love somebody and say no. That I can still love them. And I still believe that. And learning how to do that, check out the online program below. 7, true friends are people you can say no to. If you have a friend or friends that you cannot say no to, are they truly your friends? And that's something to consider. 8, people pleasing drains your energy and your emotional resources, and it increases stress. People pleasing, codependency, overfunctioning, all these words are about how we overdo it with other people. And we've learned to, and we feel insecure. We want to bolster our own self-esteem. It gives us a little self-esteem hit, but it usually doesn't last. Whereas learning to say no can help your self-confidence and self-esteem not just have a hit, but actually start to build more self-confidence and self-esteem. And again, like I said, I like to be the guy who can say no, and then I can enjoy and also be able to say yes. I would rather have them think of me that way than the guy who always says yes, and then if he says no, then if I say no, they look at me like I've got 3 heads. What's wrong with you, Jerry, that you're saying no? I'd rather have them know I probably will say no, but I might surprise them with and grace them with a yes. I like to project that much better because I used to project the other all the time. 9, remember people pleasing is our pseudo self at work or our false self. A real and true self, a genuine self, decides when it is best to be kind, generous, or even sacrificial. And I believe we can be kind, we can be generous, at times, we can be sacrificial. But it's not simply because what other people ask or say. It's how I direct my life regarding those characteristics and character traits. When we are people-pleasing, we're not being the true us. And so we can work on that guilt side, that shame side, so we can become more self-confident, self-defined, self-regulated, self-aware, which I go into great depth on the program below. There's also a training link down there that you can get free 84-minute training. Doesn't cost you a thing. Enjoy. That might be of help to you as well. People-pleasing is not healthy, nor is it righteous. It is not a reflection of higher morality. And I think that's always what I thought was that if I were people-pleasing other people, if I was enabling other people, if I was over-functioning, I was being a good spiritual or religious person. And that's not true. And in fact, I think there's a lot more problems that are caused in the world by too much people-pleasing and not enough healthy self that's important. So I don't think it's a part of being more spiritual or more, and people will just look at people-pleasers and they'll just think they're saints. No, they're just people who can't say no and don't have a real self, and they drape all of that in spiritual or religious language. And I know that to be the case, having been a pastor, a bishop for many years. I know how that can get twisted in that way. So I think a healthy person has a healthy self, a healthy relationship with their spirituality, and healthy, mature choices about yes and no with other people. I hope you found this video helpful. I want to introduce you to my new step-by-step program designed to help you break free from the toxic relationship dynamics in your family, to heal your relationships, and build the real self you were never allowed to have. I personally wish I would have had access to a program like this early in my own journey. This program is an investment in yourself, your relationships, your healing, and your life. To learn more about the program, click on the program link below provided in the description. I truly believe it will have a profound effect on your life.